Yes. So, hi Suraj. Good to see you again, and congratulations on the Young Alumni Achievers Award. So, how have you
Thank
been?
you.
How have you been?
I have been very well, thank you. I think in the times of COVID and the pandemic that we've had, one is lucky to have something to do, someone to love, something to look forward to, and I think I have all three. And I think that God has been kind. We've been healthy. The family's been well. We've had food on the table. So, what more can you ask for?
When was the last time you were on campus over here?
Oh gosh, it must be 15 years ago. I think when I came for a campus interview. I was really hoping to come this time for the award ceremony, but clearly that was not to be. But we'll find a way to come.
Right. But I mean, so you're the 99 batch. So in a couple of years, in about 3 years or so, you'll have the 25th, you know, reunion, right? So we would love to have you back at that time.
When you say that way, Anurag, you make me sound ancient. It should be the Ancient Achievers Award, AAA.
No, no, I mean, so I mean, 25th year is a big milestone, and we see a large participation in that. And so obviously it has an emotional value, and a lot of people do participate. So among we have milestone years, reunions, so 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and so forth. But 25th year sees a lot of participation. So I really would love to have you back. And obviously even before that, whenever you have some time, or I mean, of course, COVID permitting. Uh, you know, but now that have you relocated to Bangalore, can we see you on campus sometime sooner?
I would really hope so. I would hope so. I would love to come back to campus, but beyond that, I have a bit of another incentive, which is we now run so Quess runs the
Yes,
facilities at the MDC. So I really want to
yes.
come and see the team there. I know they've been working through this period, and I would love to just come and see how they're doing. So absolutely, absolutely. I hope
Well,
so.
welcome back. What does the YAAA award mean to you? I mean, it's obviously you've been very successful. You've received a lot of accolades. But what does this specific, recognition mean to you?
Anurag, obviously being recognized by IIM Ahmedabad is a is a tremendous thing. It really is a tremendous thing. I think though, the interesting reflection is this came at a time when the world was when I heard the news. I think it was April last year when the whole lockdown had just begun. We were all in the throes of the pandemic, and I think at some level it came at a time when I was very reflective about life. It's wonderful to be recognized by my institute. I also at the same time realized that I am at the end, recognitions come because of a series of opportunities that life has thrown one's way and a series of maybe positions one has held. And I'm grateful for all of that. But I think during COVID, I realized there's so many more people out there, so many heroes in this world who are unsung, who maybe deserve it more than me, but I'm still grateful for it. So thank you. Thank you to IIMA.
I mean, you've had a really good career, of course. I mean, you've spent 20 years at McKinsey, and it's always been, in a sense, right now looking back, it feels like you had a straight linear career, straight up, and increasingly progressively higher positions and better leadership roles. Um, and so what? And now, obviously, you are the group CEO of Quess, but um, so many in the McKinsey obviously take a similar route, as in they get into McKinsey or BCG or elsewhere, and then they take on they leave that and they take on a CEO role or something else in industry, and that's a very familiar route, right? A lot of people do that, but what was the thing that prompted you to make this move personally?
I don't know. It's an interesting question because, as you said, I spent 20 years at McKinsey. I love the firm. I still say, if you cut me, I bleed blue. And being a partner of the firm, having had the opportunity to be a partner of the firm for 10 years was a tremendous thing. But I also think I hit a point where I hit my 20th year at McKinsey, and I was in a place where I kind of felt I was mid-career. And I guess the question for me was, do I spend the next 20 years doing the same thing, or do I kind of look look and try something else where maybe I'd get on a different learning curve. I think I was also looking to see could I find a new role where I could have more direct impact on the world. Um, Again, I think at McKinsey, the breadth and the scale of impact is tremendous, but it's always one step removed from the coal face. And I was wondering, could I be at the coal face? And so when the Quess opportunity came along, it felt too good to be true. So I took it. I took the leap.
And so when how has it been so far? And so when you took over as the group CEO of Quest, your initial priorities were to drive strategic platform consolidation and accelerate the technology-enabled transformation. Could you share a bit about the specific measures you've taken or will undertake that will put Quest on a qualitatively much better state than before you joined it?
Well, I mean, I think what will I do? What will we do is more the question because one man can do only so much by himself. I think it takes a team to move a company, and we have a great team. Look, I think that in a sense, the mandate you just spoke about was given to me when I joined in November, and I joined as a CEO designate. I actually took over the role on April 1, which was a week into lockdown. And I think COVID had a wonderful way of redefining all of our priorities. I think in our case, it ended up redefining priorities, but redefining priorities in a way that actually accelerated how we think about some of these things. Because I think, 1 week, 2 weeks into lockdown, nobody knew how bad this could get. How bad would the economy get? There was talk of capital markets freezing. There was talk of bankruptcies. There was, a lot of doomsday people out there kind of talking about how the world was about to end. Now, in a sense, that created a great burning platform for us to do a few things. I think one was to drive very, very dramatic and direct cost reductions, including through automation, including through digitization. We've pushed our own sort of workforce management tooling to almost 100% of our, almost of our workforce. And so, in a sense, it gave us a real impetus to make sure we were being extremely agile and cut as many layers as possible and digitize as much as possible. Still think we have some ways to go, but I think the fact that we realized more than a 20% indirect cost saving in literally 2 months showed people internally what can happen and set a very high bar for the transformation that can be. But I also think versus customers, if you look at if you look at the services we're in, right, what Quest basically does is everything from, let's say, kind of call center, virtual BPO work, so virtualized business processes, to on-site business processes, to everything in between, in-field store execution, in-field merchandising, sales, promotions, installation, we kind of everything, all those processes is what we do. And I think the reality is a lot of those processes have changed dramatically because of COVID, because for our customers, the need to have well-trained people who follow SOPs, who kind of keep our customers safe is very, very high. And so I think we had to sort of also kind of, being the largest employer in India, we had to upgrade our practices very quickly, which also then helped us bring new services to the market. So I see a lot of it through the lens of COVID in a sense. I think it is a great motivator, if I could call it that, for us to change quickly. But having said that, in today's world, change is a constant, right? I don't think you can say you've made the change and stop. I think you've got to keep pushing on that treadmill constantly, and that's what we're doing. Okay, I can't hear you, Fusa. Are you muted?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. So, of course, Quest has been growing very fast, and over the recently in the past few years, it has made certain really interesting moves, right? And it has a very active acquisition strategy. Of course, to name a few, and I'm sure I'm missing some, like Compton Solutions, Vedant Cellular, Heptagon Technologies, Monster, Greenpeace, and so on and so forth. And recently, Terrier Security as well. The company has, continued in the same vein even after you joined in 2019. right? Which is where Terrier was acquired in May 2020. What makes inorganic such an attractive preferred growth strategy for Quess? And is this an integral component of your strategy for the foreseeable future?
So it's interesting. So the reality is, after my joining, we've only made one acquisition. So the Terrier was more a consolidation of an existing acquisition. We recently invested in a startup called Taskmo, which is one of India's leading gig work platforms. Look, I think Quest has had a very acquisitive strategy in the past, and I think the company did that was to build the platform that we now have. There is literally no one else in India who can offer the breadth of services that we can offer. So when we go to large enterprises, uh, the scale of conversations we have with them is unrivaled. And I personally believe that there's a lot of value in having a broad platform, right? Will we make lots of acquisitions going forward? I think we've said, look, I think the platform is built now. So I don't think we'll be acquisitive going forward. At this point, actually, our focus is on ensuring we fully digest the existing acquisitions, get our ROE back up to 20%, and get our cash flow generation to grow every year. That's really where our priorities are. Will we make acquisitions from time to time? Maybe. I think acquisitions are an important part of any corporate toolkit. But I think there'll be fewer and far between, is my sense.
Mm. But I mean, there has been a lot of acquisitions, and obviously it throws up a lot of challenges because of that. How do you manage the integration of such a diverse portfolio of businesses?
That's a great question. Look, and I think that some of it boils down to corporate philosophy. So our philosophy is, if you acquire a company, you actually want to keep the entrepreneurism and the specialness of that company. So you don't want to integrate too much.
Right.
You don't want to integrate too much. It's
Yeah.
like
I mean, so along with the pressure of improving operating cash flow and delivery, I'm sure you have to contend with culture as well, right? And how
absolutely.
are you managing the twin challenges of accelerating business transformation while simultaneously integrating and evolving, suitable culture for the organization?
No, I mean that's exactly it, isn't it? Because in a sense, you buy a company or you have a company in you kind of add a company to a portfolio because it provides a service or a product to customers that you don't have today, right? And sometimes providing that service requires it to have a different culture from you because you provide. I'll give you an example. Like, you take a monster.com, which monsterindia.com, we own. That is an internet company it's a product company with a very different cadence from a typical services company. um, Therefore, you want to make sure that you build a special culture there, which is a product centric culture. And so, do you have one culture across the company? No, you don't want one culture across the company. You want different cultures across the company. I think what you have to do is define what is that irreducible core that defines Quest, the company, and make sure that you're relentless about that. So, for example, you want to make sure that the finance backbone, legal backbone, compliance backbone is single across the company, so that from a governance perspective, you're kind of uniform and you're tight. And then you want to define what are the few things that really matter. Like, you want to make sure every business has thought through what does excellent customer service mean? Because as Quest, we want to be known for excellent customer service. So how do you kind of make sure every business is thinking about that, has defined it, codified it, and is executing on it? You want to make sure every business has thought through digitization and what digitization means for its operations. And so you want to have that conversation. You want to make sure every business has a very tight operating cadence, a high metabolic rate for reviews, so that all the numbers are as tight as they can be and growth is as high as it can be. So once you define sort of the basic things to put together, then really it's about what gets. My philosophy is what gets measured gets done. So it's about putting in place the right cadence to measure what's going on, and to make sure that you're talking to people regularly enough, and all every time you talk to people you're just repeating the same thing. I think the danger is, if you're not clear in your own mind, you end up talking to them about different things every time, and that confuses them. So I think that consistency of communication is absolutely central to building the right culture.
And such a diverse set of businesses that Quest is. Um, which areas do you see the maximum potential for growth in the foreseeable future, of course?
So look, I think what we do at Quest is we outsource we outsource processes from our clients and deliver them in ways that deliver superior productivity and superior flexibility, right? And these are typically processes which require sort of, let's say, anywhere from gray collar to lower end of white collar workers to deliver, right? I am a big believer uh, in the uh, in the future of the Indian productivity game in this space. Two things. I think one, the level of formalization in India is really low compared to developed peers. Even within formalized, if you look at the penetration of outsourcing, we're less than half the way of where a developed economy is. So the outsourcing journey has a long ways to go. So you look at the tailwinds of formalization plus outsourcing, and you're looking at multiples in terms of just potential growth. So obviously, that's an important pool to play in. I think beyond that, in India, we've historically viewed this segment of labor as cheap labor. And therefore, I mean, I remember growing up, you had janitors walking around with brooms and they were sweeping things manually, and nobody was really supervising them. And half the time after they finished, there was still dirt left behind and nobody really cared. I think those times are changing. If you look at a security guard in Bangalore, the minimum wage of a security guard is about the same as a starting IT engineer. So these employees are being paid better, which is good, which is good. And as they get paid better, they also need to become more productive, and that requires a higher level of training, a higher level of mechanization, a higher level of supervision. And that is what I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see, I think if you say, well, the industry size is going to 3x, 4x. On top of that, productivity can 2x. And you're talking about a 10x play here, at least in terms of market size over the coming years. So I'm extremely enthusiastic about that. I think that it's something that we've ignored in emerging markets in general and India specifically in the past.
So what are the specific actions that Quest is taking, or specific positions that it is putting itself in to take advantage of all of the changes that we see? Are there any specific thrust areas for Quest?
I think absolutely. I think that one of the things we're trying to do is to kind of digitize our hire to retire process, right? Which is all the way from sourcing talent to interviewing to onboarding to payrolling and then compliance management. I mean, compliance management in India, even after the new labor laws come in, will remain a complex a complex thing because we do have the number of states we've got, and there are differences by state. It's just so if you're a nationwide player, there is that complexity. So we're working on digitizing the entire thing to make sure it's scalable. We've already got some best in class tools. So our RegTech is the best there is in the country. It's a subsidiary called Simpliance. We've got, I think, we've got one of the best recruitment platforms for blue collar in Q Jobs, which is being used by 300 odd external customers today, and that's trying to sort of digitize the whole recruiting experience to make it more efficient. So that is one, just making sure the hire to retire backbone is the strongest there is. The second thing we're doing is really investing in the content of what our people do. That is basically, better workforce management. So, for example, we're amongst the country's largest facilities management players. I mean, we do this for IIMA Ahmedabad as well. And they're really kind of pushing to make sure we've got the right training, we've got the right tooling. We now have, we own India's most widely used workforce management app in the grey collar space. Just literally 220,000 of our employees every month are using this to not just do simple things like clock attendance every day, manage their rostering, but we're starting to digitize their workflows so we can sort of remotely manage them, tell them what to do, help them be more productive, remotely train them through this interface so they're more up to speed. So I think just driving that and using technology there is really important. And then over and above that, obviously, I think as a B2B player, making sure that our sales engine is fully firing, looking at our go-to market and always strengthening that and investing there, including in building a cross-sell capability across our various service lines has been really important to us also.
Those are some interesting and obviously challenging goals. Um, and you obviously not new to achieving challenging goals. You've met several of them. Um, but what do you think is, if when you reflect back on your journey from campus to now to where you are today, how would you describe your journey? I mean, was it as it seems from the outside, it's a very linear, straightforward thing, you were destined to succeed? Or were there, challenging moments where you thought that, things were not going as well as you wanted them to, and maybe you did some kind of pivot somewhere, maybe not large enough for us to be sort of visible, but some micro pivots here and there. So just give a glimpse on the journey.
There has been a time in my career when I thought it's over. All that was left for me now was to resign and retire and just go away. So no, I don't think anything in life is linear. Not career, not marriage, not parenthood. Nothing is linear in life. Um, I think I've been blessed, um, in that I think obviously I've worked very hard. But if I look around me, there's many people who work very hard and have been less blessed in their journey. Um, Having said that, I do think there are moments, many moments in life when I've looked at what I was doing and said, why am I doing it? Why am I doing this? And or I've hit a wall and I've really felt, gosh, this is not fun. And I think that the essence in my life at least has been, there are some moments when something makes you stop and say, am I doing what I really should be doing? It happens to me every couple of years. Is this really what I want to do? And I think the secret of success is to figure out, is to really look within and in that moment figure out, am I feeling this way because I'm tired and therefore I should just go to sleep and tomorrow's another day and I will learn to bat again, and I will overcome? Or am I feeling this way because actually I'm doing something which is going against my nature, something which is not meaningful to me, or something which just feels wrong? Um, and I think having a compass to figure out, is this a category one moment or a category two moment? And then having the courage, if it's a category two moment, to change what you're doing, I think is the most important lesson that I've learned. There have been times when I've said, okay, fine, this is really about going to sleep. And I've gone to sleep at 7 p.m. and woken up the next day and felt energized. And off you go to bat again. And sometimes life is just about going out and batting. And sometimes you bat and bat and bat, and eventually good things happen. But you just have to keep batting. But sometimes it really is about saying, okay, what I'm doing doesn't make sense. I need to change and pivot and do something different. And that could be changing who you work with. It could be changing what kind of problems you're working on. Um, could be a variety of things. But I think that compass is important, and that awareness and tuning that awareness over time is really key.
I think that's a very yeah, that's a good insight into somebody who's been so successful, and people usually don't think of it as all the struggles that somebody has gone through, but getting a look under the hood and a glimpse into all the challenges, it's a really human moment, right? So it's something that a lot of people will be able to connect with, and I think a lot of people will take heart from, because challenges obviously happen to everybody and struggles happens to everybody, and so the whole point is just taking the right road at that point in time, sticking to it, and going after it. So yeah, those were, of course, I mean, you've obviously worked very hard and you've achieved a lot, and obviously there have been a lot of intense moments. But tell us something about what do you do outside of work? What are some of your passions? I heard that you are a passionate photographer and you have a very good vinyl collection, right? At last count, I thought that was somewhere around 800. I'm sure it's more now.
No, I've actually stopped buying more because I realized that buying more records is a I need to first listen to what I've got. So no, so I actually have uh, I dabble in a few things, but I'm the master of none really. So I do enjoy photography. I enjoy wildlife and landscape photography. Unfortunately, in the last year, I haven't done enough. But typically, once a year, I'll try to go away for a week to a place which has zero mobile connectivity, and just take photographs. And I really, that just recharges me. But I also love to cook. I'm Mangalorean and I'm vegetarian, so uh, I do a lot of Mangalorean food, but also I can do I think a pretty decent Italian. So I can do we do pasta from scratch. On Sundays I have two sons and we try and all cook together, which is fun. And I think it's important that they also learn to cook. I love to garden, and I don't have a mali, so I kind of again I kind of do most of it myself with some help from the family. And that's an important weekend recreation. So weekends are always busy. Weekends are always busy.
Yeah, that's
Typically
what I was about to going to ask you. I mean, as in all of this sounds impossible because you probably don't even have the time for all so many things.
oh, there's lots of time. There's lots
Okay.
of time. I think it's about how you prioritize. So I'm quite intense. Usually my mornings at work start by 8 o'clock, and then I'm done by about 6 or so. Of course, there's always a few calls after that, but in the weekdays I make time to read if I can, and the weekends are really for the family and for hobbies. So again, one I think as one grows older, one learns to do the phone calls even in weekends, in between all the hobbies, and try not to take too much time away from family. There's only a few years left with the boys, so let's make the most of that.
Um, so anything that you would like to share with the student community who would be watching the videos from the time that you graduated and even now, consulting remains a very sought after career, right? And obviously McKinsey and BCG and the likes are obviously the preferred ones. So some general advice to the students and specifically related to maybe consulting.
So look, I think that consulting it's a wonderful career to do, because I think it gives you insight into so many angles of business. It gives you insight into so many types of problems, and truly sharpens and structures your mind. So I'm very grateful to have spent so many years in consulting, and I highly recommend it for sure. And I think McKinsey is just a wonderful institution and a great place to be at. But I think beyond that, what I would say is, when I was on campus, I was often driven by anxiety, and anxiety around whether I would be successful in life. Uh, and I think when I was on campus, success was very narrowly defined, right? It almost felt like your life will end with your placement. And that's all that matters. Beyond that, once you get placed, life ends, because you're either successful or unsuccessful. I think the reality is life starts with your placement. And frankly, for many, if I look at many of my batchmates, by the way, most of whom I would say are very successful in the ways they've defined success in their years after being at IIMA. Placement is only just the tip of the iceberg, and I think it's important that one keep that in mind, and that one be driven not from a place of anxiety but from a place of curiosity, to figure out what it is what you really enjoy, and what will really make you happy, and what will make you feel like you are having impact in the world. And it's different for each of us, very different for each of us. And if you figure that out, and if you have the courage to follow it, you will be successful, no matter what accolades you get or do not get, or how much money you have or do not have.
Well, Suraj, it was great talking to you, and congratulations again for winning the Young Alumni Achievers Award. Uh, and unfortunately, we are not able to do this on campus in person this time, but we would love to have you back. And obviously, this time around, you have more of a reason than probably anybody else to come back. You have to see how things are working over here, uh, and uh, and that's a deeper connect with the institute that you have right there, right? So we'd love to have you back, and you know, so do let me know when you are coming back. We'll make the arrangements for you, and also plan a session with the students. if you have the time, of course. But students would absolutely love it. So, Sudal, do let us know, and I look forward to having you here. And congratulations again.
Thank you, Anurag. Thank you for the time and thank you for the award and thank you for the interview. I'll talk to you soon. I'd love to be
Take
back.
care.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.